Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in Andy Swan. He's a co-founder at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Happy Monday.
All right, so we've got big tech day here on Fast Market, so we couldn't dismiss Nvidia. As I mentioned, stock up over 200% this year. We pulled back about 10% from those all-time highs we saw about 2 weeks ago. I mean, do you guys still see in this positive data where demand's outstripping supply and, their margins are growing because they charge so much for these chips?
Yeah, I think, if you're Nvidia, this is a kind of 1,000-year flood in terms of business. There's not many companies that have, growth at the level that they do, combined with the pricing power that they do, combined with the fact that they have, really good visibility into the next quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters of orders for their product. We're at Likefolio, we look at, how much are people talking about this company? How positively are they talking about this company, and what is the web traffic looking like to the company? And for Nvidia, it's outperforming peers on the mentions side of things, down a little bit from what were really unbelievable all-time highs for the overall mentions. But more important, I think, than that is the web visits, because this is the people who are looking to figure out what Nvidia does, how they can order Nvidia chips for their business, how they can get Nvidia chips in the products that they're buying. And that is outpacing peers, in a real kind of a flip way, where it's, Nvidia is positive and the other two, Intel and AMD, are negative on a year-over-year basis, which tells us that, from an overall competitive standpoint, Nvidia is just kind of leaving everybody else behind. I think there's no question about that. We see that continuing. Consumer sentiment levels or happiness levels are extremely high and rising. So for all intents and purposes, Nvidia is, lapping the competition here and has a very large mega trend as a tailwind. So we see Nvidia as, in a very strong position going into 2024 and probably into 2025. We don't see this ending anytime soon.
Yeah, Andy, playing AI from the picks and shovels angle is it seems like, to me on the surface, a great way to play AI. Let the competition for who's better play out, and you're selling parts to all of them. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for more good news for Nvidia, the PC market is picking back up, and their revenues grew 81% gaming revenue growth in the last quarter. So those numbers are even getting better. So now they're getting multiple businesses doing it. But the question is, Andy, in Likefolio's opinion and your data's opinion, is Nvidia the best play for AI chips? What's the best one? Because competition's going to come out there and it's going to get closer, and all these big companies with plenty of money are going to try to play AI. Is this the safest way to play AI?
Yeah, the stock has moved up, 1,250% in the last 5 years. So that always gives you a little bit of pause in terms of calling an investment safe, when something's moved that quickly. I do think, though, that you're onto something when you talk about, the alternate to AI, and that is, Nvidia has a great, data center unit. They have great chips for video games, for PCs. All of this AI hype is only bolstering Nvidia's brand across all of those segments. Because if you think about it, if you're a company trying to figure out where you're going to put your data center, who you're going to trust that to, at this point, are you going to trust it to Nvidia, or are you going to trust it to Intel? It's a pretty easy comparison. I do think AMD is probably the one on the list that I think could be the dark horse and make a nice little comeback. Yeah. But from a chips, from a picks and shovels perspective, who's making the best chip, who's going to continue to make the chip that's in demand, we don't see any reason to think it's going to be anybody other than Nvidia for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to expand on that discussion because they announced their new H200 GPU, Andy, 18 times the performance of the in-demand H100 chip here. So as AMD is going to be competition for Nvidia, and that's probably what's going to eventually hurt margins. But right now, they're actually innovating at a faster pace. So, I mean, does AMD or Intel even have a chance in this game if the leader or, the initial, company that's out there with these type of chips continues to innovate at a faster pace than, AMD's isn't even released yet.
Right. Yeah. You're right. And I think NVIDIA has, prior to the AI revolution, NVIDIA has had such an awesome, execution from a strategic perspective, from a product perspective, that I think they have absolutely the culture and the leadership it takes to take full advantage of this moment in history. And that is, we're getting a flood of money and attention and demand coming in. And our job is to stay not just one step or two steps ahead of the competition, but 3 or 4 steps ahead of the competition. And let's make this what Amazon was to the rest of e-commerce in 2005. Let's be that as we move into AI and next generation computing in 2025. And so I think this is the type of company that probably thinks that way, that can execute that way. And it could become a self-fulfilling kind of viral feedback loop prophecy, where this company just leaves everybody else in the dust and there becomes kind of just one winner out of this. I don't know that that'll happen, but it's certainly possible given NVIDIA's phenomenal history of execution on the product and the kind of business execution side.
Yeah, and Andy, as I mentioned before, stocks pulled back about 10%, from those all-time highs. I mean, is this, according to like your data, are you guys still positive on this one, even though it's up over 200% this year? Yeah,
I think like everything else, it depends on your time frame. I think there's certainly risk to the downside in the short term. There's, always, if there's a lull in the hype, there's always kind of that natural profit-taking grind that happens. But I think if you're a long-term investor and you're looking out to 2028, which chip maker is likely to be, 5 times or 10 times larger than it is today? I think the clear answer is NVIDIA.
All right, great stuff. Great data as always, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder at Likefolio, breaking down positive data. I mean, once again from them, I like to hit on NVIDIA at least once a quarter with those guys because they see the trends in real time.
Once a quarter. This show could be the NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple show, if you think about it.
Just rotate the magnificent.
Rotate them through,
But one of the caveats, they have all U.S.-based data, right? Yep. But the regulation